Welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel Network Family Bible Study Hour with Pastor Arnold Murray. Wisdom is understanding God's Word. Pastor Murray's unique teaching approach brings God's Word alive with meaning as he takes you on a chapter-by-chapter, verse-by-verse study of God's letter to you, the Bible. And now here is Pastor Arnold Murray.
Good day to you. God bless you. Say, welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this family Bible study hour, the book of Proverbs. Again, I want to keep reminding you, it means rules. Rules for what? Rules to make you successful in your walk with God, in your getting along with civil governments, and also how to be successful in business, in your personal life, in your vocation. So these are the rules set forth. Hey, you got a choice. You can follow them or forget them. But if you want to be successful and find peace of mind, you'll follow the rules, at least as best you can. So we continue with the writings of wisdom. Those that seek wisdom will find it. God will guarantee that, especially if you seek it from Him. Wisdom of the world doesn't amount to a whole lot. But if it comes from our Father, which all true wisdom does, you'll be in good shape. So with the Word, we ask our Father to give us that knowledge in Jesus, Yeshua's name. And let's pick it up in chapter 13, verse 12. Let's just go with it. One good thing about the Proverbs, you can just pick up anywhere. And it reads logically and makes sense. And 12 reads, Hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. And I think this is something all of us should memorize real well. Hope deferred means you got something you really want to do, but you keep putting it off. Defer. I'll do that tomorrow. No, the next day. And you really want to do it, but you're afraid to. Many of you want to start a business in life or something else, but you're afraid to. You keep putting it off and putting it off, and putting it off never comes. But when the desire cometh, that is to say, to give you enough get up and go, to do something about it, then it is the tree of life. What is the tree of life? It's Christ. He's going to step in and help you in your endeavors as long as you'll do it His way. Now, I'm not telling everybody they should start a business. This works in any vocation. Verse 13. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed. But he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Those that are in awe of God's word, its wisdom, its the common sense portrayed therein. But I'm sorry, those that despise the word are going to be blotted out on that great white throne judgment day. 14. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. That's to say, escape death. Why? Because you have immortality, you have eternal life. What is the law of the wise? Some might say, well, I never quite heard of the law of the wise. Well, where does all wisdom come from? You've been told that over and over. It comes from God. So naturally, the law of wisdom is the law of God, and you're holding it, all right? It will help you to escape pitfalls in this world, and certainly in the age to come. Verse 15. Good understanding giveth favor, but the way of transgressors is hard. I'm going to have to do a little something with this. Good understanding gives you tact, and you're tactful in how you approach people, using common sense. And if you express yourself properly and you use a little tact and convincing someone, you will have the favor. But it says here then, when it says but the way of the transgressors is hard. The word hard in the Hebrew, it means rough, like really rough land is where it comes from, uncultivated, as they are uncultivated in all their ways and everything about them. The transgressors of that favor and of God's word, His law. Verse 16, every prudent man dealeth with knowledge. But a fool layeth open his folly. In other words, there's only one way you can deal, and that is to use knowledge, or you're not going to be very successful in dealing. All right? You at the same time, a fool lays open his folly. Why? When he opens his mouth, he becomes a ratchet jaw. You can see through him, or a person with a little wisdom can, and you know what to do with them. Verse 17. A wicked messenger falleth into mischief. It's going to happen. But a faithful ambassador is health. In other words, an ambassador to who? To God. An ambassador of God's Word is always going to bring a healing spirit upon those ears on which it falls if they attend that ear to what is being said, seeking wisdom. Then certainly that's going to heal both their spirit, their body, their soul, their walk in life, their vocation, their business. As I stated, it's important that you apply these to all three of those categories I aforementioned. Naturally, if you don't use tact in your business, if someone walks in your business, as I stated in a lecture or so back, and says, "What do you want?" Hey, I'm out of here. I don't want to purchase anything from them. If somebody sets themselves up to give service to the people and then robs them by not giving that service, I don't want to do business with them, nor do the majority of the people. And then they would ask, why can I make a crack at staying in business? If you're giving service, you say, how are you today, and what may I do to help you? All right? You put that service out there and go a little extra mile and be an ambassador of God's Word at the same time. And I'm not saying start preaching to customers. You misunderstand if you can't see through that. Verse 18. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction. Sorry, a know-it-all that won't listen to anything, that keeps bloody in his toes all the time because he doesn't know where to walk in life. That's just the way it goes. But he that regardeth reproof shall be honored if you listen to good advice. Now, that doesn't mean advice usually comes free. And some advice, you look at the person. And let's say in some of these smaller towns in America, we have the whittler's bench, and I mean, they'll be lined up right there while everybody else is out working, able-bodied men, and they're whittling and talking. Now, some of them are retired, so they're fine, and probably you'd find a little bit of wisdom there, but I'm talking about the younger people. Why would you want to ask a failure for advice? Always go to the most successful man you can find and ask him for advice, okay? And you will be honored. Why? Because you'll be successful. You also will be successful by taking wise advice. And I must hasten to add, the wisest advice you can receive is this word. For your business, your farm, your job, whatever. 19. The desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is abomination to fools to depart from evil. And now think about that a minute. When you accomplish something, it's sweet to the soul. Why? You did it. You're a can-do type person. But for a fool to depart from evil, he would consider that an abomination. Well, I'm not going to quit my easy life. I mean, like you hates to give up his wrongdoing. He won't, most usually, unless God gives him an attitude adjustment with a touch of the Holy Spirit. Verse 20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. In other words, birds of a feather flock together. Whatever you wash your white shirts in, whatever color water, that's what they're going to come out as, okay? You wash them in clean water, they'll come out clean. And if you listen to trash, your mind is going to filter through and it's going to catch a little bit of the trash. I'm not saying that a good, strong, wise person, it doesn't tingle his ears. He's probably heard some of the worst filth in the world. It doesn't bother. But at the same time, when you totally cut your life loose and go with the flow, make sure which flow you're flowing with. I don't know, the choice is yours. People wonder why the world just all gangs up against me. No, they don't. You choose your own path. And God gave you free will where you can do something about it at any time you choose to. There's just one thing. You've got to be a doer. Not a poor me baby, but a doer. God loves can-do type people. Verse 21. Evil, or let's say misfortune, pursueth sinners. It's always there for them, and boy, are they going to have it. But to the righteous, that's to say those that try to do right, good shall be repaid. You can't outdo God in that respect, and there's no such thing as luck. It's those that do right that God causes the breaks to come in their life. Verse 22. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. Now think about that, children's children. And the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now that would almost seem a little unfair, because what it means is the sinner doesn't leave anything to his children, but those that are good at what they do will end up with what should have been his riches. Why? Because he poop-pawed them off. Didn't use wisdom, didn't use common sense. Again, one of those fellows that doesn't have a window to look out of or throw anything out of. Just a hard luck Charlie, but he did it to himself. Well, you don't understand, I was born poor. Well, so what? There are many of us that lived back during the Depression that could tell you what poor was. And look at us. There's no disgrace in being poor. It's a sin to stay that way if you're able-bodied, okay? It's just that simple. And the just will end up with whatever the other old boy could have made, either by, in other words, wealth sticks to those that are can-do type people. Verse 23, much food is in the tillage of the poor, but there is that is destroyed for want of judgment. In other words, using common sense. This leaves a little lacking. Let's say much food is in the tillage of the fresh land for the worker, not necessarily poor. In other words, he's going to eat a lot. He's going to have what he wants, with the blessings of God, I must add. But there is that is destroyed for want of judgment. You don't use good judgment on something. And as we opened up with the sluggard, the lazy person, you're not going to end up with anything. God doesn't like a sluggard. And it all ties in to answer the question. You're going to end by not using good judgment. Well, I'll just lay in bed a little longer. Well, hey, sleep on, sweet Charlotte. You know, the world comes to those that seek it, and the blessings come to those that seek it. So, be that as it may. Next verse, verse 24, I believe it is. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Betimes means early. Nip it in the bud. If you see a bad trait when he is a lad, you correct that trait, and always explain why. Explain utilizing common sense, whereby the child understands why you are saying don't do this or do that. Children are very intelligent if their parents are intelligent. 25. Now, I don't want to leave that hanging right there. Does some good. Otherwise, go ahead and pop off steam and lose everything. 25. The righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul, but the belly of the wicked shall want. That's just the way it is. The wicked can never be successful, though you've heard the saying all your life, well, it seems like the crooks are the only one that get ahead. Don't kid yourself. They have to look over their shoulder all the time. They can't even trust their own family, much less anyone else, never having peace of mind. What a miserable life. And, you know, we have a very good policy in this generation whereby usually, let's say in the case of drug pushers and those that poison the minds of children rather than taking care of their own, poisoning the minds of others, hey, we get all their stuff to buy police equipment to chase down more of them. Take their houses, their homes, cars, airplanes, boats. Hey, just take it all. We do that. And that's good. That's real good. The wicked never. That is the dumbest thing in the world for someone to think, well, look how nice he dresses. Huh. Look how frightened he is in his heart. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. A brave man dies once. Verse 14. I'm sorry, chapter 14, verse 1. Let's go with it as it continues. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. And now, this applies to both men and women, all right? Let's don't just put this whole trip, if you have two that are one, you got to build together if you're ever going to have anything. But the foolish tears her own house down by her efforts. Her efforts tear up her own household. And I must say that I know this is not a popular saying, and I'm almost tempted to not even mention it, but I shall. It is human nature, win, lose, or draw, right or wrong, that the female bird must hold her nest together. The male won't do it. All right? The woman must procure that wisdom that it takes to hold that nest together, or it's going to get tore up. Thus, a foolish woman, that is, I'm sorry, but that is just nature. That's the nature of the beast. And there are exceptions to every rule, but sometimes a woman must use great wisdom in deciding whether or not she's going to kick the old boy out, or now that she's got him trained, she's going to keep him just the way he is by chastising him a little bit in one form or the other. A woman is very wise, but always think twice. And it's a lot harder to have to build another nest than to tear down the one, than to repair the one you have. Okay, now just there are exceptions to every rule, and sometimes a nest must be destroyed, but be that as it may. Verse 2. He that walketh in his uprighteousness feareth the Lord. That is to say, he reveres the Lord. He loves him. If you do what right and receive the blessings of God, how can you help loving him that gives you the blessings? But he that is perverse in his ways despiseth him. And they usually do, because they want to blame things on God. That's why I really dislike it when people will send in a question saying, why does God let the little kids be molested? Well, God doesn't, it's the people that allow it. God gave us a set of laws that if we followed them through, whacko, somebody molest a child, hey, he's 6 foot under. And he's not around to molest another child. God told you how to do it. The reason we have children molested is because we're very sorry in bringing forth the justice that God instructed us to bring forth, whereby others would see and these things would cease to happen among us. So don't try to blame God for things. It's people that despise God and are always real quick to blame him for things. That is to say, if they're perverse, have a little twisted mind, only think of self, and that usually, someone that is only talks about self are the first ones you'll see on a poor me baby jag. All right, verse 3. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. In their proud speeches, sometimes the rod is they beat themselves to death with it. In other words, by what they say, they cause their own downfall. You don't have to listen to a foolish person very long when he goes on with his great prideful speeches. I. He'll trip himself up, and you'll know that you got a ratchet jaw on your hands, and that's the end of it. Verse 4. Where no oxen are, I want you to listen real closely to this. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean. But much increase is by the strength of the ox. In other words, apply this to our high-tech generation, if you like. The better tools that you can utilize, the more you can get done. It's like in a ministry. This television is one of the best tools you can have to put corn in the crib. By that I mean to be able to accomplish what you have to accomplish. There's two ways to look at it. I'll just spend a second or two on this. Well, my crib's empty, but I don't have an ox, so I don't need any corn. Well, what are you going to feed your family? You know, used to we had to turn shell a turn of corn. It's been so long since I made the figure of speech that that's where you carry it to the miller and it's ground into cornmeal and you got good old cornbread, all right? But what it's saying is, with the ox strength, you can accomplish a lot more by utilizing the things that God has placed here for you to use. Kind, gentle beast, once you train them and break them. Show them that God gave us authority over them in a gentle, strong way. Utilizing every piece of equipment that will further your vocation, business, or whatever the case may be, or even your home or your belief, is wise. Okay, you got it? Verse 5. I want to say one more word. Don't put off. Don't be a put-off like we covered in the hope deferred. If you need an ox, get one. I can see everybody going to sale barns all over the country. I'm not talking about literally doing it. It's a figure of speech. Don't wait too long. If you could make twice as much, well, I won't give that type of advice, but use your head. Okay, verse 5. A faithful witness will not lie. You couldn't get him to. But a false witness or a liar will utter lies. I mean, he breathes out falsehood. He can't help it. As natural as breathing is, lying is likewise to him. Verse 6. A scorner seeketh wisdom and findeth it not. Anyone that in vain seeks wisdom, that's really what it means in the Hebrew. Don't do anything in vain. Vain means emptiness. Seek wisdom in an empty way. But knowledge is easy unto him that understandeth. Knowledge is easy to those that use a little common sense. Verse 7. Go from the presence of a foolish man when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. I mean, you don't have to listen long. If you ask a fool advice, then go somewhere and seek advice where you know wisdom is. It's certainly not with a fool. All right, you're not going to find it there. Verse 8. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way. I would rather translate this understand to observe. He really watches where he steps. All right? Really watches the path he takes. But the folly of fools is deceit. Folly, with fools, their folly brings folly. You reap what you sow. What is the definition of a prudent person? And I want to do this from the Hebrew for you so that you get the full intent, not from Webster's. But a prudent man, how can I say this? He's one that cautiously uses common sense. I want to say that again for you. It's important. A prudent man, as it is written and translated in most places from the Hebrew, indicates and means cautiously using common sense, all right? Or with discretion using common sense, perhaps is better said. But always be cautious. Be careful that you think and plan ahead, unless it is an emergency. And if your mind is loaded with the Word of God, you'll do what's right in an instant. Verse 9. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. Now, I want to show you how you can really go wrong if you're not careful and cautious in studying Proverbs. You see, this word that is translated sin, fools make a mock at sin, that doesn't quite make common sense, does it? And if you cautiously use common sense, why would a fool mock at sin? So there's a little something missing. So I want to pull up on the character generator the word sin as it is from the Hebrew, and you find that it is asham. And it comes from a prime, 8:16, which means guilty by implication of fault. Also, this is why I wanted you to come here, a sin offering. And that's good enough. The sin offering. I want you to think about that. A fool mocks even in his sin offering when he gives it. That's what it should be translated to. Do you know what a sin offering is? It's when a fool or a wicked person has harmed someone, the Word of God stipulates that he will repay twice the amount for what he destroyed of the innocent party. What it's saying is that a fool will even mock about the sacrificial sin offering that he offers. The only thing he does it for is to keep out of jail. Well, they picked me up, and many might say, well, how could that apply to today? Well, they picked me up again, and I plea bargained and got myself out of it. It just cost me $500. $500 for your wickedness, sin, being a fool? Let's see, we could have taken that $500 and bought your wife a brand new washing machine. We could have taken that $500 and invested it to your child's college education, and add a little to it. It would have gone a long ways. So go ahead and mock. And the just will inherit what your children should have had. So you see, you want to be careful when you study the Proverbs, and when something doesn't fit all the way, and that's why I'm going to take you through the whole book this time. Before I stopped about here and let you do the rest of them because they're really simple. But that true wisdom is to take that is difficult or confusing or mixed up and simplify it whereby anyone may understand it. And when you study for yourself, you always do it in that wise. Verse 10. The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. The heart knoweth his own trouble of the soul. In other words, the heart is the mind. In your mind, you know and understand what troubles your soul. That's yourself. And you know that what you have to do to work those things out, because into each life a little rain must fall. But there's one thing about it: a stranger, and it's important that you pick up on the Hebrew on this. This is not nakar. This is zer, which means a religious apostate. An apostate, or someone of a fake religion, or a misled religion, or a religion that is led by traditions of men, cannot take that joy away from you. Now let's back up and cover that whole thing again and kind of put it into perspective. Verse 10, your heart or your mind knoweth the troubles that bother your very soul, and you work them out. But a zer, an apostate, a know-it-all of religion, doth not intermeddle with your joy. In other words, God's blessings are going to come through to you strong and clear. They can't stop it. Verse 11, the house of the wicked shall be overthrown. but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish. I guess if I were to use an analogy I've already mentioned about the house of the wicked shall be overthrown, about people that like to grow weeds in their basement. A little weed, a little here, a little there, a little tulip here, a little tulip there. We're going to get their house to help save children's lives. It's going to be overthrown. I'm just using that as an analogy to show you, because sooner or later, the wicked, their house is going to go down one way or the other when they end up in the pokey, or they overdose and kill themselves, or they kind of get started on it, get hooked, and go all the way to the gutter and lose everything, go bankrupt. Hey, it's fun. It's not fun for those that have to experience it, but you could change your mind and live right and have God's blessings and not have to go through that sort of thing. But the choice is yours. If you enjoy it, have a good trip. Verse 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man. It seems pleasing. Now don't read over that, to a man, not God, but to you. Many times a pathway or a way to do something, it seems very pleasing. But the end thereof are the ways of death. In other words, if you take that first urge that's pleasing in this earth age, or pleasing to the world, let's put it that way, 99% of the time it will lead you to death, which means you're not going to make the eternal you're not going to get an eternal boarding pass into the eternity. It's not going to happen. Verse 13. Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. This has to do, again, you're going to have to pick up on the thought of earthly laughter, joy, or joy in things that you forget and leave our Father out of. Ultimately brings heaviness in your heart. And at the same time, that the end of that laughter, when the laughter ends, the heaviness surfaces. That's why people without God have such a difficult time finding peace of mind. I can tell you, it is an impossibility to have peace of mind and be biblically illiterate. Now, I'll say that for you again. It's impossible to have peace of mind and be biblically illiterate. I don't care how well you're educated in the world. Sometimes, no, I won't beat that old horse, but many times if you're educated, for example, in Western civilization and evolution and a few other things, it's to your hurt, because only a fool would accept evolution. If evolution were a fact, it would have to be an eternal process, and you would have to have strange-looking creatures from the little amoeba all the way up through to the so-called upright monkey to a fine specimen such as myself sitting before you. It would have to be all of these at one time, because you can't go from here to the frog. We still got frogs, and they're the same frogs I find in fossils, 10 million years old, and a frog's a frog, and it still looks like a frog. But you got these educated dudes that'll say, oh yes, I was once a frog, before that a tadpole. Yeah. And, with what they've got their deck loaded with, it's obvious maybe they were. Okay. But wisdom of the world is not necessarily helpful in many cases. Always remember prudent. Cautiously apply common sense. Okay? And you'll never go wrong. Well, we'll leave it there for today. Don't miss any of these lectures in Proverbs. The rules of your life to find success, peace of mind, happiness. And also, it's very important, if you can forget about self just a little bit, you become a blessing to others. That's one of the most rewarding things in the world, I think, is when you can do good to somebody that really needs help in advice or counsel. Well, I'm not really very wise. Well, that's okay. You know some men that are very wise that you can share counsel with, that they can pay $100 an hour and they won't be as wise as the counselors that you can bring them. That is to say, Ezekiel, Daniel, Isaiah, Hosea, Jeremiah. Whoa, there's a wise one. You know, and the Proverbs from old Solomon. You know, he messed up. He didn't exactly follow his own advice, but he was wise at the time of the writing, let's put it that way. He was always wise. He just did some things that he thought were pleasurable in the world. Like, I don't know how 300 wives could be pleasurable, but, you know, I guess if that was his choice, that was his choice. He was king, so be that as it may. But apply wisdom to your life, and you'll be a lot better off for it. So don't miss any of these lectures on Proverbs. All right, bless your heart. You listen a moment, won't you please?